welcome to Amphi Reviews, here with an official review copy for the upcoming release of Ben Hur on 4K, releasing on the 27th of April 2026 from Warner Brothers. Thank you very much for this review copy. I do appreciate it. This originally did get a release as a steelbook edition, I believe on the end of March. I want to say 23rd, 24th of March. There was a steelbook version of this. This is the standard edition on terms of the 4K, and I got this little head of time to go with the slipcase, double disc set, digitally restored and stunning 4K high definition, and you can see there. And Warner Brothers keeping their tradition of the slim packaging now for the UK. There you go. And you get your double disc there, both 4K. And interestingly enough, this is a nearly 4-hour movie, a 4-hour epic from the 50s of the golden age of cinema. And what they've decided to do is put the first disc with the 2 hours and 20, and then the second disc is an hour and 20 to make up the runtime. Split up the runtime between two discs just to kind of keep the quality going overall. And on the 4K discs themselves, you also get the audio commentary and the music tracks as well, because the start of the film and the intermission is just essentially like a 5-minute track, pieces of music from the actual film, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen a whole lot of kind of 1950s classic Hollywood golden age cinema. I've got a handful of those kind of movies that I'm kind of slowly getting my way into, and this one was a pure delight to watch over the Easter weekend, which is very, very appropriate, being the fact this is a kind of a religious, kind of biblical, kind of epic of, you know, with Charlton Heston, and you've got legendary director, you've got classic Warner Brothers kind of MGM kind of productions, huge sets kind of thing, massive cast. On my test disc and physical copy reviews, I would talk about the feature film first and then the special features, or vice versa. Now, interestingly enough, though, I have reported back some feedback. I don't know if this is an error in terms of the edition, or maybe it's just an early advanced kind of review copy. Maybe it's the reason why they pulled it from Amazon at the moment, because you can't actually pre-order this edition. I think there might have been some sort of technical error. I'm not entirely sure. With this version, as you can see from the back there, it does mention about a bonus disc. Now, the bonus disc is a standard Blu-ray, and it features basically the cinematography scale of production, Charlton Heston documentary, making of special features, test screenings, more, basically a full round kind of insight into the production. Everything you want to know about this film is on this Blu-ray disc, which, as you noticed there from the intro, I do not have. This is just the standard double disc 4K edition, featuring the film itself across 2 discs with just an audio commentary. Yeah, very surprising. I'm not too sure what happened. Maybe it's the reason why they got pulled in terms of the pre-order availability in terms of Amazon HMV. Hopefully be back on the site soon. By the time this video comes out, I will put a link in the description below for it. None kind of affiliation link, just a general to let you guys know you can pre-order this now, or it's available to get. Hopefully they will continue to release it on its release window in terms of the 27th of April 2026. I'm not entirely sure about the steelbook version. I'm not too sure if that was a 2-disc or just a 3-disc set. I'll have to look into that, but very interesting. I did have a brief look at the audio commentary. Very, very interesting in terms of the film historian kind of, you know, perspective, and it does have a Charlton Heston also commentary, so I'm not too sure if it's an archival extra, being the fact that Charlton Heston has been long gone now since the year 2000. So 4K presentation, which is probably the main reason you may be watching this video, it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm not too sure if this was part of the initial Warner Brothers collection, because they did do this kind of those initial box set editions very early on, and then they decided to release them individually later on. It looks stunning. I mean, this is 1959, 1958. Absolutely breathtaking, just an incredible presentation. It looked good back then. It looks even better now in the 4K restoration. With all that being said, let's talk about the feature film itself. Ben Hur, released in 1959, directed by William Wilder, I believe I'm saying it correctly. Done a load of classic kind of 50s, 60s movies, a load that I have not watched. In terms of the golden age of kind of Hollywood, kind of 50s, 60s onwards, it's definitely a bit of a blank spot for me, if I'm being completely honest. I haven't watched a lot of them. I never really got exposed to a lot of those kind of movies. I grew up with, you know, 80s kind of trash, war movies, of course, you know, some classic kind of, you know, 50s, 60s kind of war movies, you know, the horror movies, sci-fi, all the big kind of greats that you would expect, of course, Stanley Kubrick, of course. But in terms of some of these kind of bigger than life kind of movies, Lawrence of Arabia, I've never seen Lawrence of Arabia, probably, you know, Criminal. Ben Hur has been one of those movies on the list for eternity. You know, it's a 4-hour movie when do you have time to watch it? When do you want to sit down, be in the mood to check out a film like this? You know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be an incredible experience, but you want to give it the time of day. You want to give it the attention that it deserves, and you can't squeeze this in into a mid kind of break or something. You have to sit down. You have to watch it. And I took a little break in between. I took the intermission as the film broke into two different discs, and I fully enjoyed my time with it. I thought this is absolutely fantastic. And I'm probably preaching to the choir at this point. This is a 70-year-old plus film at this point, and it's incredible work of art. It's just flawless kind of production, set design, incredible matte paintings, hand-built sets, costume designs, incredible. A story which actually was pretty goddamn good, and for a PG, a little more violent than I expected as well. Charlton Heston at the top of his game. I obviously know Charlton Heston from The Planet of the Apes, which I think many people do. But he did a lot of these kind of biblical movies. He did The Ten Commandments, another film that I have not seen. I just haven't really watched these kind of religious, biblical kind of, historical kind of epics. And, I think these are kind of like a bit of a blank spot in my kind of cinephile kind of history that I may need to kind of rectify down the line. But just every single aspect of this film in terms of the male leading star, classic Charlton Heston, without a shirt for most of the film, wanting revenge, classic kind of storytelling at its finest, some surprising kind of twists and turns. I wouldn't say twist, more just reveals in the stories or natural kind of, paths they choose to go on, which was really kind of delightful and surprising. It was a very engaging film. Despite the fact it's a 4-hour movie, I thought its runtime was actually pretty smooth. I thought it was engaging. It was very fluent in terms of how he wanted to reveal more information, how he wanted to change up the locations, keep the tension going, keep the motivation very much on live in terms of the character of Charlton Heston. He plays Ben Hur, of course, and then raise the stakes even higher towards the third act of the film. To give you a bit of an idea on the story of the film, I'll just go from the actual box itself. This is a experience of one of the most celebrated epics ever made. Winner of 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Ben Hur remains a landmark in filmmaking. I can fully agree upon that. Charlton Heston stars as Ben Hur, a nobleman whose life is forever changed by betrayal, vengeance, and redemption, featuring one of the most famous car chase in history, monumental production, continues to define the grandeur of Hollywood's golden age. Very simple description there. As you can see, won loads and loads of awards, and I can see why. It's just a film for the ages. I thought the story was really engaging. It is got some religious aspects, of course, to it, and it is the story of a man who wants revenge on a friend, someone who thought it was an actual friend and wants to make an example of him. This is Rome just before the events taking place with Jesus in terms of the Messiah. And you've got this kind of really interesting kind of intertwinable story. You don't see kind of Jesus's kind of face. It's just his presence is always there. At the start of the film, he intertwines, he appears up here and there. And this character, Charlton Heston, he's just going through his journey, trying to ask God for help and guidance, and he wants revenge on what's happened to him and his mother and his sister. And he goes through the ringer, as you would say, years and years and years, building himself up, getting some series of opportunities and good fortune in his wake, leading up to back to the guy who started it all, who basically robbed him of his freedom, robbed him of his mother and his sister, and he's going to take sweet revenge. Almost Batman-esque evil kind of thing in terms of his kind of demeanor, which I thought was interesting. The way they kind of frame him, the music, the lighting is absolutely incredible. And I thought the build up to that kind of car chase sequence, I thought was stunning. It was, there's a reason why it is one of the most famous kind of car chase kind of moments in history. And even then, when the storyline of that actually wraps up in terms of the revenge aspect, the kind of going after the guy who robbed him, there's another 45 minutes of the film, which you're thinking, well, okay, this film is going on a little bit too long. But no, surprisingly, there's another element to it. There's another kind of redemption arc to it. This film is literally, as described there, about betrayal, vengeance, and redemption. All three of those values, or those themes of the film's classic storytelling themes, all part of this film, and I thought the ending was pretty goddamn good. I do admit, I think there's a little bit of one aspect of the film that I didn't quite like. I thought it was a little bit kind of hokey, but I'll leave that for the comments. Potentially I might kind of reveal that later on if some people might guess what that is. I thought the whole film was fantastic up until about 99.99%. There's one aspect of the film, one tiny 1% of the film that I just kind of like irked me a little bit, but I can forgive and forget because the rest of the thing is just absolutely fantastic. Honestly, what more can I say about Ben Hur that every person on the planet for the past 70 plus years hasn't said about this film? If you haven't seen it, you owe it to yourself to go and check it out. If you're a true cinephile, if you've been putting this on the back burner for such a long time, you sit on streaming, but you don't want to bother with it, pick up the 4K edition. It looks incredible. Hopefully yours will come with a Blu-ray disc with their special features. Definitely worth the purchase for sure. Check it out. Make sure you have time to watch it. Check it over the weekend. And the 4K presentation is the best possible viewing you have, whether it's for your first time viewing, whether it's your second, third, fourth. So what are your thoughts and impressions on Ben Hur? Have you seen the film before? Have you not seen it? Will you be picking up the 4K edition? Do you already own it in terms of the steelbook? I'd love to know your thoughts and impressions. Please comment down below. So meantime, guys, I'm for reviews. Signing out.